Okay, if you'd all please stand and recite with me the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. I'm Nina Rosamondo, President of the League of Women Voters, South County. On behalf of the League, I would like to welcome you all to the second of our League's Meet the Candidates 2018, the second one this evening. Thank you to the members of the audience here at Narragansett Town Hall, candidates for Town Council of Narragansett, and thanks to our viewers on Cox Channel 17 and Verizon Channel 28. One of the most important duties we have as citizens is to learn about issues and candidates so we can make informed choices when we vote. If you find a forum like this is an essential part of your election decisions, please consider joining the League to provide your community with nonpartisan voter education and advocacy for open and accountable government. The League is open to men, hope you know that, as well as women. There are membership materials on the table by the door back there, along with other voter information. Democracy works only when citizens participate in the process. Forums like this can easily be a lost resource to Narragansett if citizens are only spectators in that process. In fact, the reality is, unless some residents of Narragansett join our League, we will not be able to put on this forum in 2020. So, talk with a League member tonight. We're all over. Consider attending a monthly meeting and learn more. We're here tonight to ask questions of the candidates up here and to listen respectfully to each of them as they discuss issues important to the future of Narragansett and Rhode Island. We appreciate your voter interest and enthusiasm, but please hold your applause and refrain from reacting to the candidates' answers. This is a nonpartisan forum. I would like to thank many people for helping with this forum. The League of Women Voters Rhode Island Education Fund for providing funding, the Town of Narragansett for the use of the Town Hall and Council chambers, and the staff at Narragansett Town Hall for their help and cooperation. Many thanks to my fellow members of the League of Women Voters South County who have worked many hours planning this event. I'd also like to thank the many members this year of the community who have helped with questions, submitted questions. Maybe they did ask neighbors and friends, I've been told that. At any rate, we've had a record number of questions submitted this year. Thanks to the Westerly Public Access Television Studio, PEG RI-TV, for handling the live broadcast and the frequent rebroadcast of this program. And lastly, thanks to all the local media covering this forum. The League of Women Voters South County's website will have links to the forum videos. Last but by no means least, I would particularly like to welcome and thank our moderator, Nancy Burrows. Nancy is a distinguished former League member who has been active in civic affairs in South Kingstown, too numerous to mention, since moving to Rhode Island in the 1980s. So now to our distinguished moderator, Nancy Burrows.
Thank you. The candidates have drawn lots to determine the order in which they're seating at the dais. There will be no opening statements, and the closing statements will be 1 minute in the order in which they are seated. The exception to the opening statement is Susan Cicilline Buonanno will not attend tonight, and her representative, Becky Durbin, will now make a 1 minute statement on her behalf.
Thank you. I'm Becky Durkin, and I'm here to read Susan Cicilline Buonanno's statement. I send my sincere regrets in not being able to attend and participate in the forum tonight. I had a death in the family and am not able to be here. I would like to thank the Women's League for putting together this forum for all the candidates and wish each candidate good luck in the upcoming election. I have served for 20 years in the town of Narragansett. It has been a privilege and honor to work with so many town councils, town managers, and residents over the years. In my most recent term as Narragansett Town Council President, I have enjoyed my leadership role and was able to assist in moving the town council initiatives forward. Thank you for your continuous support, and I am asking for your vote on November 6th. I am number 6 on the ballot. Thank you, Susan.
Okay. Tonight, because of strong Narragansett voter interest in one issue this year, we are modifying the usual format. Question 1 will be addressed to all candidates who will have 1 minute to respond. We will then return to the usual format. Since there are an even number of candidates tonight, each 1-minute question will be directed to 2 candidates. The order in which candidates will be asked a question is random. All candidates will be asked 1 question before any candidate is asked a second question, and so on through each round. All candidates will be asked the same number of questions. In addition, each candidate has been given 2 colored index cards, which are wild cards. A candidate may use a wild card to respond to any question which has not been directed to him or her, and will have at least more than 1 candidate may use a wild card on any question. However, once a candidate has used both their wild cards, he or she may only respond to questions directed to him or her. In a candidate's closing statement, issues or questions not answered during the forum may be addressed. There will also be a series of lightning round questions which require only a yes/no answer. These will be addressed to all candidates. Each candidate will be given 10 seconds to elaborate beyond a simple yes or no, if they so desire. So we now go to the first question. That is addressed to everyone, and we'll just go in the order you're seated. So we'll start with Matthew Mannix, but this is the question. In 2016, 67% of Narragansett citizens who voted supported a $5.8 million bond to build a new library. Since then, there have been a series of contentious library-related 3-2 votes by the current town council. Will you support the plan to acquire and build the new library at the Belmont Marketplace, or will you vote to rescind the current agreement? Please explain your reasoning in detail.
Well, thank you, and thank you for the League for sponsoring tonight's event. So the voters 2 years ago voted for a bond for $5.8 million of borrowing for a purchase or renovation of a library. So our duty as a town council then is we don't have to borrow every last penny up until that $5.8 million. As the negotiations with Gilbane continued over the last now almost 2 years, I felt less and less comfortable with the deal and that we were putting on with that was being agreed to with Gilbane. I was concerned about, first of all, we were ignoring the past history with Gilbane and the problems that we had had in the past with them, and we were many times getting changes to the deal that weren't in the town's best interest. The total value of the property was much, that Gilbane wanted was much higher than the assessed value of the property. And most importantly, the 20 years, over the next 20 years, it's a $420,000 year-by-year tax increase.
Yeah, that your 1 minute's up.
So I am voting that I've not supported the library deal with moving to the IGA building.
Okay. Richard Lima.
So thank you. I think people know where I stand on the library as far as we do need a new library. I've been quoted in the paper for it. We need to get to the year 2018. For me, I don't get to sit behind those closed doors, which executive sessions and whatever other meetings they have. So for me, I'm a person that has to know all the facts, all the figures, and I want to know if it's going to be the best for what we're looking for. Financial responsibility is very important as a council person in this town when representing all the taxpayers of the town. Thank you.
Okay. Patrick Murray?
Okay, I was re-elected 2 years ago, same time as the bond. So it's my fiduciary responsibility to my constituents to execute the purchase of the Gilbane property, the build-out, keep it on track, on time, and at or below cost. As far as the cost for an average home of $410,000, it will cost that homeowner between $30 and $32 a year for the next 20 years. So this is a reasonable cost for a building that can also be an event center, senior center, children's. I mean, the current library holds 17 children in their reading area. You know, people want families to come to the town, but they don't want to provide the services. So I am definitely in support of this. It's been 10 months of negotiation. We have a good deal at $128 a square foot. It's a good deal on all levels. Thank you.
Jesse Pogue?
Oh, thanks, Jill. So I do support the library moving to the IGA building in the pier, and I do so emphatically. The building and the pier would allow some flexibility that none of the other options that have been discussed would allow. It would be modern, it would be ADA compliant, to be used by all. It would be the start of bringing the pier back. And most importantly, it would be the lowest cost option of all the options that have been discussed thus far. All the numbers are available for the public to see, so we do know the numbers. It was overwhelmingly approved in a vote. And I just think that this is something that we've been working towards, and I definitely will support it and will vote for it moving forward. Thank you.
Jill Lawler?
Thank you to the League, to those who are here and those who are watching at home. I also believe that people understand where I stand on this. I did vote for the $5.8 million bond, as many as you have. However, the bond was not specifically for the Gilbane building, for the IGA building. It was for a new library, and we desperately need a new library. So let's talk about really what's happened over since that bond was voted for. This deal has morphed, it's changed. The ripple effect is unbelievable for this. We've gone from a 5.8 now to maybe a 10.5. We've had to now add in a liquor store in order not to have this building have a condominium aspect. That's $400,000 more, so the dollars keep coming up. And you might ask, well, what about that purchase of a liquor store? Well, what does that mean? It means a liquor store is going to now need to be relocated. So we're now affecting other businesses within the pier. So essentially, this is not the deal we voted for. We do need to have a new library. I'm firmly behind the fact we need to have a new library, but with a town that has so much infrastructure needs, to be able to have it all for one library, no.
Okay, thank you. Winter Hames?
Thank you. I'm definitely in favor of the library as well. I voted for it, like a lot of other people in town. I wasn't happy at the beginning when it was going to be a condo situation. Patrick did a wonderful job, and the rest of the council in negotiating a purchase of the property, which makes a lot more sense. So at this point, we're at a point where we should go forward with it, and people should stop arguing about it, but come together and get the best that you can possibly do up there. We are getting a substantial amount of money back from the state, from the library fund, that people have to take into consideration. I think it's going to be a great addition to the town, so I'm 100% in favor of it.
Okay, thank you. We will now go on to our just addressing each question to two candidates. So the candidates, the first question will be to Ms. Lawler and Mr. Pugh. If you are elected, what is the first item you will place upon the agenda, and why is this your #1 priority? And if you are an incumbent, please include in your answer which items over the past 2 years you have placed on the agenda, and do you take the most pride at being passed?
That's a long question. So I think if I take a look at what I believe are the main town issues, we have the town beach, we have quality of life, and we have town infrastructure. So if I want to take a look at that quality of life, we just came off of a forum with the neighborhood associations, and we were talking about quality of life. A couple of things that I put on the agenda over the past 2 years were quality of life oriented. One was parking restrictions on roads and neighborhoods where residents were having problems and even considering having emergency vehicles come down. A couple other dealt with just the unruly behavior of some of our residents from the URI. In a prior forum, I said that one of the first things I would want to do is to address this. Right now, we're a little bit waiting to see what happens with the forum related, but there are certainly some things that we can do to try to have regain some of the peace and quiet in town. Impact fees, as far as like trying to recoup money that our town residents are paying for people who are running businesses called landlords.
All right. Mr. Pugh?
There are two issues that I'm really passionate about. One of them is affordable housing, and another one is the environment and renewable energy. So there's a committee that I would like to work towards, which is an affordable housing committee. Susan's actually started the process of doing that, so I plan on working with her to get that going. One that I would specifically work on putting on the agenda on my own is a renewable energy committee. So what that would be is a committee that works with the residents to define ordinances and policies for residential renewable energy, solar, and then we would also have a municipal aspect to it. And the way that would work is the town would define ways that we could place solar panels on roofs on municipal buildings, solar canopies around town, different places where we have flat surfaces where solar panels could be placed. That's something that would generate revenue for the town, and also work towards just our renewable energy goals in general. So that's one thing that I have in mind. Thank you.
Okay. The next question will be addressed to Mr. Hames and Mr. Lima. How will you personally help create an environment of mutual respect and civility and work cooperatively with council members with whom you do not agree?
Well, the first thing is not to yell at them. But I think I can work with just about anybody up here. I mean, it's just sitting down and compromising and coming up with what's ever best for the town. A lot of times you have to put aside what your personal feelings are, but you have to look at everything town-wide. And everything you do, if you sit up here, should be aimed at the majority of the people in town. So there's very little to be gained about continuing to argue, making public displays. You sit down and you work with people, talk to people very civilly, and that's, I think, the best way to overcome any of that.
Okay. Mr. Lima?
So first off, yes. You're elected by the people of the town to come up here and represent them. You should take all those personalities away. You should be here to represent the people, make the best decisions for the people, use common sense approach, have a positive attitude, where you'll get positive results. So if elected, I'm here to do a job, get things done, and let's move forward. People are tired of waiting. Thank you.
Okay. The last question in this round is addressed to Mr. Mannix and Mr. Murray. Okay. How do you plan to represent all the citizens of Narragansett fairly and impartially, including those whose voices are seldom heard, when organized and vocal special interest groups of residents and non-residents alike are lobbying you to serve their interests? So, Mr. Mannix.
What I think I pride myself on is I try to go out to many different venues, many different places, and meet with voters, talk to them, and there's a lot of people many people who come to the regular meetings are not the people that I see out and about when I'm out at restaurants or in the grocery store, or on the beach. So I'm very happy to talk to those constituencies, people who are not always being heard here. And I think I've been pretty consistent over the years on my concerns there, whether it was in my first term when I was fighting the Deepwater project, but my second term in which I felt that the single rate proposal was going to be too big of a tax increase on the residents. And then obviously in this term I think the library deal has gone off the rails, and I've been pointing that out, and many people have been expressing that concern to me that the original intent of it is not what they had wanted in the beginning. So I go out, I try to meet with and talk with as many people as I can, and I'm very open and accessible.
Okay, Mr. Murray.
Yes, well, since being elected, since 2014, my only compass is common sense and mathematics and what's best for the most constituents. And usually, 50% of the town is usually PO'd at me 100% of the time. So I've been hissed and applauded actually in the same meeting. So I think I cover all those bases. Thank you.
Okay, we're now to our second round of questions, and this question will be addressed to Mr. Lima, and Mr. Pugh. What specific process would you propose to the new town council for appointments to boards and commissions so that all charter requirements are met and no conflicts of interest exist, while at the same time ensuring diverse representation of the town's population?
So again, if the council is up here to select people, again, we have to look at those people, look at the backgrounds, see what they have for education based on the positions they're going into, what experience they have. I mean, we just can't take somebody off the street or somebody that's known and say, let's put them in this position because we think they'll do a great job. We have a lot of issues with our zoning, some with the planning departments, and we need to put the right people in there that understand the demographics of Narragansett and understand how to handle it. So you definitely have to do your research background and make sure you select the right person for each position. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Pugh?
I would start by talking to the current counselors and seeing what the process currently is, what the protocols are. That's something that I'm not 100% familiar with at this time. So start there. The next step is to publicize as well as possible. So you want to make sure that you get awareness of this committee out amongst everyone in town. I think part of the problem is that people just are not aware that these committees even exist. And I think that's a real thing. And where you go from, so once everyone's more aware of it and they know that it might be something that they're interested in, then you could start getting more into the interviewing process and really the vetting. So another thing that's kind of interesting is some of these committees depend on people with a specific expertise in that subject matter. So you want people in the industry. But in other cases, there's a conflict of interest. So you really have to weigh that out in an individual case to see if there's a conflict of interest or if that expertise is well used on that committee. So thank you.
Okay, so the final question in this round will go to Mr. Hames and Mr. Murray.
No, we have another set of questions, too. This is the second to last question. So.
Sorry about that. But this question does go to Mr. Hames and Mr. Murray.
Thought you got lucky there, didn't you?
All right. Okay, it is. In your opinion, is the current management model for the town's rental venues working? If yes, why do you believe it is? And if not, what would you propose as an alternative?
Who goes first?
The venues?
Yeah, it says the town's rental venues.
Kenny Bungalow.
So I assume that's
you
the towers and the.
Oh, all right, you're talking about not the rental, not housing rentals.
No.
I'm assuming the
Rental venues.
question is about the town-owned rentals.
All right, then we have three fantastic places we do rent out. Kenny Bungalow, the Towers, and the North Beach Clubhouse. And I vote at the North Beach Clubhouse. There's not another voting poll like that in the country. But there's two different organizations. I think the Rec Department does two of them, and there's another organization, the Towers Committee, that does the other. I think those two have to be combined in some way, or else be able to work closer together with one another. I think we have to take a look, especially at Kenny Bungalow, about the improvements that need to be there to help the rentals of it. I mean, it's hard to have a wedding there in July when it's 90 degrees out and it's 100 degrees upstairs. There should be things be done to improve both North Beach Clubhouse, Sunset Farms, and the Towers.
Mr. Murray?
Okay, Kenny Bungalow, that's, over the last 3 years, we've netted $12,000, okay? Our representatives from the town council wanted to put a $400,000 HVAC system in there to provide air conditioning and heat, okay? But they don't want to buy a $400,000 building in the pier that produces 40 grand a year in net revenue. But anyway, let's put that one aside. I think we should lease that out, have somebody lease that out on a per monthly basis and get out of the wedding business over at Kenny Bungalow. I think the tower should take over the North Clubhouse, and they've been doing such a great job over there. I think they should take over that facility and have a bifold folder and manage that property. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now, for the last question in this round, is to Mr. Mannix and Ms. Lawler. There is considerable concern that real estate in Narragansett is becoming unaffordable for many of the people who work in town. Is it the role of the council to make more affordable housing available? If yes, how would you propose increasing affordable housing? If not, whose responsibility is it, and what would you recommend to them? So, Mr. Mannix.
Well, I think the place that I would start there, because of the increased assessments and the reason that a lot of towns do go and ask for a homestead exemption at the legislative level is because of those increased assessments. So I would initially, when we pursued the homestead exemption, we were looking for a larger amount. So I think I would I think the first step would be to get a larger homestead exemption. The homestead exemption right now is modest at 10%. I think, although it would be a big undertaking, because I experienced it up at the State House this last 2 years, I think it would be very good for us to at least make that effort, because that is targeted for people who are full-time residents who live and vote in the town, and they would get a decrease in their assessment. So that would be the first place that I would look, because we can't stop coastal properties assessments from going up, but we do have that remedy that's available to us, but we would have to get additional enabling legislation.
Okay. Ms. Lawler.
So I do not believe it's a role of the town to have more affordable housing brought in. I am in favor of a two-tier residential tax with a commercial tax on top of that would lower the tax rate a bit on rental properties that are not rented out. I know that there is a person that is running for council that has talked about increasing our density by adding some small houses to be attached to other existing dwellings. I'm against that. As far as increasing our sewer capacity, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't believe that the town should have any influence as far as having prices of homes go lower, so they can become affordable. I think we need to focus in on the qualities of the town, our town education system with our school, and attract some families. Maybe it won't be their first home, it might be their second home. They might have kids that are maybe in high school coming in, but we can't ask residents of the town to sell their property at a less cost in order to have affordable housing come in.
Oh, okay. Jesse Pugh.
So I was the candidate who mentioned ADUs, which are small homes that could be built on properties that have large acreage. So it's not going to work in all areas. It's not going to work in Metatuxet or neighborhoods with small lots. But areas that have large lots and have normal-sized houses or even large houses that have plenty of room, they could get exemptions to build a small 1 or 2 bedroom unit on their property, which opens up additional housing for maybe a single parent with a child. And we can actually, that's fine with sewer capacity because we actually have an agenda item to increase sewer capacity by 241 homes. So that's not really an issue in that case. So for actual ideas to help families move to town, one thing that we're not really talking much about is the idea of rental properties as full-time homes for parents or for families. Purchasing might not be an option, but if you can help people get into a rental, they could live there for a few years and then maybe move on. That's something that we could do. We could do that by rewarding landlords who rent out their properties year-round to families.
Your
So, thank you.
time is up. Thank you.
Sorry, thanks.
And I think we have one more.
Oh, yes, okay. Mr. Hames.
It's very difficult to like I think a couple of people said, I mean, you have your home in Narragansett, but I think Narragansett gets a very bad rap as being unaffordable for first-time home buyers. Our average home sale, I think Patrick said, is about $415,000. But if you look at the overall tax structure, to buy a $400,000 home in Narragansett, a $300,000 home in North Kingston, you're looking at about $150 more in the mortgage. Now, that might seem a lot, and you're going to get a little bit less because we have a full-time fire department, although North Kingston does well, but they also have a fire tax. With our present real estate taxes being what they are at about $9 or almost $10 compared to the $20 in surrounding towns, people should look more at Narragansett, and I think realtors should push that particular way of looking at the affordable housing,
Oh, time.
unfortunately.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Anybody, oh, we have one more.
All right, we have another one.
So I might as
Mr.
well,
Lima.
jump on this. I've mentioned it before, $450,000 for a home. What first-time family is going to come into Narragansett at $450,000? They're not. We're looking at the second-time buyers. The sewer system opening up, being allowed for more houses to hook up. We got to get the existing houses to hook up. There's people that are waiting to hook up. We're not going to come in and let 300 or 200 new houses hook up to sewer systems when we have houses that have been waiting to hook up to these systems, and it's a need for them to hook up. We got to start thinking about the needs, not the wants. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so, all right. All right, we're going to now switch to a lightning round, and we'll start with Matthew Mannix and just go around the table. And this is, you say yes or no, and you have 10 seconds to elaborate on that yes or no if you wish. Okay. Will you vote to enact a policy requiring the town council to conduct public interviews for individuals seeking reappointment to the zoning and planning boards?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
No, but I'd take a hard look at their attendance record.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, and I'd also like to take a look at televising both the planning and zoning board meetings.
That's a hard question to answer. It seems like a simple one. I would be in favor of it, but again, taking a very hard look at who was coming before you.
Okay, thank you. All right, this question will start with Mr. Lima. Will you submit an agenda item requiring members of the zoning board to conduct site visits for all projects of significant impact, scale, and scope?
I don't see why I wouldn't. If it's that large of a project and it has the interest of the taxpayers, maybe they should be looking
Okay.
at more items.
All right, thank you.
I think that decision's up to the chairman. He runs that committee, and I think he calls a shot. There's some properties that some people in town know from, where they're at, what they are. They have the plans in front of them. Site visit, Sometimes it's not necessary.
Okay.
I can't commit to an answer on that without a better definition of what significant actually means in this case, so I can't answer that one.
Okay.
I believe it should be expectation, if not already an expectation, for the planning and zoning boards to do this. I mean, this town, we have some issues right now that we need to make sure are fundamentally growing with our town, and yes,
All right.
definitely,
Thank you.
yes.
I don't want to get into the position of micromanaging any committee. If they think it's necessary, I think they should do it. I think they're talking with the building inspector.
Okay, time. All right. Matthew.
I strongly encourage the planning and zoning board members to do site visits.
Okay. Okay, this question will start with Mr. Murray. Do you believe the current Library Board of Trustees has been effective in their advocacy role for the new town library?
Yes, that's part of the 50% that usually boo me and then cheer me, but yes, yes, we do have some issues there. We do spar back and forth, but yes,
Okay.
I do.
All right, time. Mr. Pugh.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay.
I believe they're a group of highly passionate people, and I believe that they have been one-sided and only looking at the Belmont property and not looking at other options, although the voters voted for a new library, not a specific site.
Okay, time. Okay.
Yes, I think that's just a yes.
Okay.
No.
Ma'am. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So now this starts with Mr. Pugh. If the Conservation Commission recommends banning plastic bags in Narragansett, will you vote yes or no?
I'd vote yes, and maybe I'll change my other answer, and that would be one of my first agenda items. Thank you.
Okay.
No.
Yes.
No.
No.
No, let the market dictate plastic bag use.
Okay. Ms. Lawler, will you support the town creating a series of walking trails on the grounds of Sunset Farm in order to ensure greater public access and enjoyment?
Absolutely. I've been trying to do this for years, since I was the chair of the Land Trust.
Yes.
I'm not sure it's come up at Land Trust, but it's kind of a newer issue, so.
Okay.
If that's what the people want, then yes. Let them have what they want.
The trails are already there. There's a little question of maintainability there, but he's working on it, and we're working with Jeff, so, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. This is the final question in this round to Mr. Hames. Will you hold budget increases to the cost of living factor being used by the federal government Social Security increases?
I can't say a definite yes on that. You try to, but if something comes up in town where you have to go over that, then it becomes necessary to do it. You try to do it as best you can.
Okay.
The goal is always a 0% tax increase, but my first year on the council, we had to spend over $500,000 on the beach enterprise fund after Sandy. So that's the goal, but you can't always meet the goal.
I think we always try to keep in reason the lowest of everything that we want to do. But in hindsight, it always comes out to being more. So you have to go with that.
Okay. Time. Mr. Murray.
Yes, the cost of doing business is right around 2.5% per year. Certainly, there's ways to chip around that, get it lower, or do some other shenanigans. But yes, we have to try to keep taxes
Okay,
low,
time.
but not at the expense of the town.
Time.
I think that's a tough one. I do agree with the idea of consistency and adhering to a standard year to year. I'm not sure tying it to the National Cost of Living Index is appropriate,
Okay,
but
time.
thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, fiscal responsibility is something I've been very strong on the last 2 years, and I continue to be strong, hopefully, the next 2.
Okay. Thank you. All right, we'll go back to the 1-minute questions.
Mr. Reba and Mr. Mannix.
Okay. So who were these? Okay. This question is addressed to Mr. Mannix and Mr. Lima. What is your vision for the 8 acres of land held in the public trust at Clark Road? Would you ever support the town selling Clark Road to a developer?
What I'd like to see is us, no, I don't want to sell Clark Road to a developer. We got a lot of feedback from the residents of Clark Road regarding their neighborhood, and they wanted to basically preserve it the way that it's been. So I would, in terms of a vision there, I think of what I would look at for Clark Road is I would like to look at maybe all of our buildings, including the community center and our existing library, and seeing what activities we should be doing at each of them, because we've heard about some creep at the library in terms of really not a traditional library role, and there's a lot of some people mentioned it's become like an event center and morphed into other activities. Yeah. I think that and so I'd like to look at all those facilities, because at Clark Road we could have different kind of programs, but I don't have a specific vision in my mind. I'd want to hear what people had to say.
Mr. Lima.
So Clark Road, for those that don't know, has had summer camps there that they try to run. They have some buildings there. The buildings are in desperate need of repair. They need about $250,000 down there to get that one of the buildings they have up and running. We cannot sell Clark Farm because of a 500 some odd dollar amount grant that DEM, that we're in with DEM. So selling Clark Road takes us out of grant funding. We need to look at Clark Road. We need to evaluate what we're going to do with it, and hopefully do something that benefits the town and the people of the town. It's a beautiful location. Thank you.
Okay. So the next question will be addressed to Mr. Hames and Ms. Lawler. What is your specific proposal to improve quality of life for isolated senior citizens facing transportation challenges? Mr. Hames.
Transportation challenges, we have a bus at the community center. We need to make sure that that continues to run, or if we don't, we still have one there? Yeah, we have a bus and a bus driver. I know the previous bus drivers. I mean, whenever a senior citizen needs any transportation, we should be available through the senior citizen to be able to pick them up, make sure they get groceries, doctor's appointments, or whatever they need. I know there are organizations that do that. I'm supposed to be looking that way. That do that, but the town should supplement that and have a line that where they can call directly either to the town hall or to the community center to make sure that's available, or schedule appointments to do it. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Lawler.
So I believe this is one area that we need to do much better at. You know, our population is skewing towards seniors, and we currently do not have a senior center that is reflective of the need that we have. There are block grants that are given out to towns and municipalities every single year by the state. If we identify the community center as a senior center, we'll be eligible to apply for a block grant and obtain grant money. We need to have that senior center that would also be able to have funding for transportation, for all sorts of other things. These activities that have been mentioned that go on in the library can also take part in the senior center if identified as such, and funds can be, again, granted through block grant money and other grants.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pugh.
There are a few programs in town geared towards seniors that are not very well publicized. So RIPTA has a flex bus that goes through town, and what that is it's actually it's almost an Uber that anyone could use for $1. So if you call ahead, you can book that flex bus to come pick you up at your house, take you where you need to go, and it costs $1. And actually it's supplemented, so it should be free for a lot of seniors. So that's something where I feel like the town should promote that with a marketing program to let everyone know about that. It's not just for seniors, but it'll be well utilized by seniors. Secondly, there's a good amount of seniors in the Pier area. There's some senior communities right across from the Pier Marketplace. When the library moves to IGA, the old library should be a small market, like a convenience store or something like a Rock's. And that would be perfect for seniors in that area. They could walk right there, and there's nothing in the pier right now that serves that need. So thank you.
Okay. All right. So the next question is to Mr. Murray and Mr. Pugh. Narragansett takes pride in being recognized nationally and statewide for being a seaside destination. Do you feel the town sufficiently promotes tourism, or is it becoming increasingly hostile to it? Please explain how to find the correct balance for residents and visitors. So, Mr. Murray.
Well, yeah, we've always been a three-tier town: locals, tourists, and URI. So, you know, again, let the market take care of it. If somebody shows up and they don't like paying $10 to go on the beach, then they won't come back next year. So I think the market's taking care of things. I think we promote Narragansett. We certainly get enough articles and awards, and so we are recognized. I think just stay the course. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Pugh.
I'm not sure of the town necessarily, how much they promote tourism. I don't think they really have to. I think that tourists are coming no matter what. With the beach decision this year, I definitely understand that decision. And, you know, there's people from different sides that take different positions on it. A lot of the residents that I've spoken to are happy about it. I think it's a tough decision. I think that was made somewhat hastily this year to get rid of the year-round, or get rid of the seasonal passes for non-residents and also increase the daily rate. I think was a bit much to do in one season. And also not to not work with South Kingstown on some sort of a reciprocal pass. Maybe could have made some sense, or maybe even a weekday pass that didn't work on the weekends. My point is that it probably was the right decision. I think it should be reviewed yearly, and I think that a lot of thought should go into it because we should be good neighbors to the towns around us as well. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Hames, do you have a? Sure. Okay.
We realize that the town depends on tourism. It depends on tourism and also depends on the URI students, our restaurants, our stores. We got the highest grossing Stop and Shop in the state, the highest grossing Cumberland Farms in the state. It's not strictly because of the summer people, it's also because of URI. But if we want to promote for the businesses in town, to try to help them, and you got to promote the shoulder seasons. We got to do more in spring and more in fall. You go into restaurants right now, and you can get a seat anywhere. Some of the places you just sit down at the bar, and there's nobody else in there. There should be things that we should be able to come up with to try to promote other people coming in. The beach, I'll have to address that at the end because I don't have any money, but any time left. But there was an excellent decision from the rec board, which I'm on the rec board. I think we worked very hard in coming up with a good solution for the overpopulation on the beach.
Okay. Ms. Lawler?
Yeah, thank you. So let's look at what does the town of Narragansett currently do for tourism? I had asked the town manager to take a look at this dollar figure during our last beach meeting that we had with the Rec Bureau. And the town puts nearly $100,000 worth of activities during the summer between concerts, movies on the beach, police, safety, into attracting tourists to come to the town. It's really up to the businesses to get the people to stay in town and to go to their businesses, their business plan. But the town certainly does a lot in tourism. We also we pay, I believe it's $15,000 a year to the Chamber of Commerce to be able to staff their office at the tower. So certainly the town does a lot. I agree with Wynn. One area that we need to look at when you think tourism in a town that's a beach town, you think really beach. But we do need to take a look at our shoulder seasons and find out other ways we can bring people to our town during not only the summer months.
Okay.
Nobody wants to. Okay.
All right. So the next question will be directed to Mr. Lima and Ms. Lawler. Narragansett's demographic makeup of full-time residents, part-time residents, landlords, URI students, and tourists presents conflicting constituent needs. Please describe if you have any proposals for the town council to adopt which would promote a more constructive interaction among all these types of residents. So, Mr. Lima.
So first off, it's obvious that we can't function without URI. We do need the URI students. We do need them here. The only thing that we ask is that we have a little control of what's going on. That's what the neighborhood groups are looking for, the people that live near these rental homes. They want some quality of life. That's all they're asking, a little bit of quality of life. So we need them. The businesses need them. What restaurants they go to, they're needed. We need to learn how to get along as a whole and make sure that the community stays whole as a community, not divide us. Don't be dividing the community. Let's all get together and try to make it work together. And we need all the ideas from not only the people that live in this town, but also the university people and the businesses that are associated with our town. Thank you.
Ms. Lawler.
So I agree with most of what Rick said. We do need to have the university students in town. We need them. We need them for the shoulder season. We need them to be able to come up with a void when our tourists are gone. We do need to come up with better expectations on all sides so that we can all have expectations and learn to live together better. I would love to see the university come back to the table and take a role. The Student Senate, they can't do anything. We need for Dr. Dooley and for his staff to take an active role. We need to have university students who are not behaving correctly in the neighborhoods, have the university take actions against them, whether it's suspensions. But we cannot do this without the university's help. But I do believe that we can do better. We've been doing better. The amount of stickers have been down. The amount of nuisance calls to the town has been down. Our police department and Sean Corrigan have done a fantastic job and continue to make it better every single year. But we can only do that by communicating expectations.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, Mr. Mannix.
I'm going to play my wild card, if that's okay. Full-time residents in the town enjoy the town in so many different ways. People who live in Galilee, enjoy Sand Hill Cove. People who live on the river, Narrow River, enjoy boating and kayaking on the river. But one thing that so many people in town enjoy is our town beach, and we talk about attracting young families. I've talked about keeping taxes low and fought for the homestead exemption, the enabling legislation. In addition, the Narragansett Town Beach is something that so many people love, and that's why it was great this year that we were able to institute policies for the town to make the beach very resident friendly. And it was very important for us to do this because people in town were telling us that the beach was crowded, they weren't enjoying their beach experience, and those were our full-time residents who we represent. So I think that was very important for us to do, and I don't want to see backsliding on that. I'm very concerned that that could happen, and I don't want to see that.
Time. Okay, Mr. Murray.
I just want to get the record straight. Matt, that's the second time tonight you mentioned how hard you fought for the homestead, but you didn't vote for the homestead. You abstained from the vote. Okay, I just want to get that on the record. Thank you.
I'm going to play my other wild card. So I think it's good. I actually have heard Patrick snicker about this and make comments about this. So I was the one who testified 3 times at the General Assembly and fought for the enabling legislation. That was the obstacle that was difficult to overcome. 10, 12 years ago, special interest killed the homestead exemption. When it came, so that's the enabling legislation. You can't get anywhere without that. That's the true fight. So that's where you're fighting the special interests and not grandstanding and making silly comments. So
Well, you didn't vote for it. You didn't vote for it.
So what happened at Narragansett level, where we had to decide on the ordinance, I always said the definition of homestead that I wanted was one where I said it's people who live and vote in the town. And I abstained on that vote because the definition we put in was not the definition that I had fought for. That's all. The homestead, the fight had happened. I abstained on that definition of what a homesteader should be. I had a specific definition in mind that I thought was important.
Time. Okay, your other wild card. Okay, Mr. Murray.
Can I respond to that? I got like 6 of them over here.
I know. We're keeping track. Okay.
Matt, it was my understanding you didn't vote for the homestead, or you abstained from the homestead. You got a free pass on that one because you didn't vote no. But you The reason they didn't, it was my understanding, is because the homeowner who comes here 2 weeks a year and doesn't rent, you wanted them to receive a homestead. We would have been the only city or town in the country who provides a homestead for a 2-week vacation home that somebody visits once a year. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right.
God, I got that out.
Okay. We're on to our next question, which is...
Except it's not true.
Okay, well, no, just...
Remind everybody about closing statements.
Okay. The next question is directed to Mr. Mannix and Mr. Hames. All right. If Narragansett had a budget surplus in 2017-18 or has one in 2018-19, what would you propose to do with this surplus?
I would return it to the taxpayers.
Okay. Mr. Hames.
Return it to the taxpayers is a very simple answer. You have a lot more that you can do with it. With our pension situation, you could put it toward the pension situation and keep us afloat with that. It's one of the most important things in town. We've funded it, this town council's funded it for the last 3 years, 100%, but we still owe a lot of money if people look at it. Any money you can put towards that helps us. The pension system is like a giant credit card. It affects everything that we do. It affects any money we're going to borrow. It's got to be knocked down and taken completely in control. So any surplus, I would suggest, would go in that direction.
Okay, thank you. All right, our final question is going to be addressed to Mr. Pugh and Mr. Murray. Which of the dozens of recommendations from the Narragansett Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee deserves immediate action by the new town council to protect the safety and well-being of bicyclists and pedestrians alike? So, Mr. Pugh.
The most effective, I think, in terms of ease of getting it done would be the highly visible painted crosswalks around town. So these are not traditional crosswalks that just have kind of like 2 lines, but sometimes they're like patterns, and they can even be logos and even like a mural. It could be waves. You can do those all in the heavy traffic areas, in the problem areas, and you get that done right away. So I would start with that because it's the easiest and it's very effective. And I think there's a ton of other recommendations in that report that should be pursued as well, but I would start with the crosswalks.
Okay. Mr. Murray?
Yeah, I saw that, and I think I'd like to get the pedestrian and bicycle traffic off Boston Neck Road. I almost nailed Steve Kusa the other day, and that would total my truck, if anybody knows that guy. But it's a big guy here, you know. But we got the old Seaview Railroad that runs just north of Sprague Bridge, and I think we should take that bike path, get people off the road. It brings you up to Metatux, and it comes out, oddly enough, at the bicycle shop. But I think that's something that needs to be looked at. That would clear that road and keep it from being so dangerous. Thank you.
Great. Oh, okay. Mr. Lima.
So again, when you mention bike, it's pretty obvious, bike path. Bike path comes out on Mumford Road, goes all the way out to West Kingston. I live on Mumford Road. It's great. Great to see the activity and the people using it, not only bikers, walkers, the schools, but it would be great to continue that. And if we have hurdles going the rest of the way, then I've always mentioned, how about getting on the other side of Sprague Bridge and going all the way up to the north end? There's a power line that's up at that north end.
That's right.
And every time I drive by it and look down it, I go, what a great spot. So there are people in the audience tonight that have worked hard on keeping us up on these bike paths, and I am going to support them, and we're going to get those bike paths done. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to move on to closing statements. 1 minute closing statement in the order in which you're seated, so we'll start with Mr. Mannix.
1 minute. 1 minute.
Clarity, consistency, and conviction. Those are the three traits that I have exhibited as a town councilman here in Narragansett. I've spoken clearly to the people of this town about my goal to protect our small town values and respect for our neighbors, teachers, law enforcement, and others. I'm consistent in my commitment to accountability, whether it is eliminating wasteful spending or challenging the bureaucratic mindset that often cripples our state. I've demonstrated a conviction to preserve Narragansett's best qualities when special interests have tried to pursue narrow agendas not in the town's best interest. So thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting tonight's debate. Thank you. I've been proud to represent Narragansett on the council, and I ask again for your support on November 6th. I pledge to continue to be a clear, consistent, and committed voice for Narragansett now and into the future. Thank you, and God bless Narragansett.
So I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and the people that came out tonight. It would be an honor for me to serve my community as a Narragansett Town Council person. Narragansett's very special to me. I was born in Narragansett. I believe the success of our town lies within the people who live here. But there needs to be an avenue to deliver that success. If I'm elected, I'm the avenue. I want residents to be proud of where they live and who they are represented by. I believe another key to the success of our town is to elect people who are honest, have integrity, listen to the concerned taxpayers, and are committed to making Narragansett our home. Narragansett's our home. In closing, thank you for the opportunity to serve you and for your commitment to our town. Please remember to vote November 6th. I'm number 7 on the ballot. Thank you.
6 or 7?
7.
Oh, 7.
I'm number 7.
7. I'm just making sure. I just want to make sure. Okay. Make no mistake, this election of these candidates is a library issue. You know who supports it, who doesn't support it. We have an opportunity to change the whole dynamic of the pier for the next 50 years and right a 50-year wrong. And all this righteous indignation of Gil Bain, the only two people up here who's been around is Win Hames and myself. And you. That's right, you too. That's right, you were here. And so don't forget number 7 over here. So we need to execute this process. We need to bring it in on time and bring it at or below cost. This is an important issue for the town, and we can finally have a town center after 50 years. Thank you. Thank you for your support.
I grew up in Narragansett and moved back about 6 years ago with my wife and 2 daughters. There are 2 words that drive my campaign for town council: Izzy and Callie. These are the names of my 2 daughters. Izzy is 4 and Callie is 7. The 2 of them inform so many of the decisions I make and the things that I pursue. When we talk about a new modern library in the pier, I think of taking my girls there on rainy Saturdays and the programs they can participate in, and how they'll be going there to study when they're in middle and high school. When we talk about affordable housing, I picture them running through the neighborhood with their friends because we've helped more young families move to town. Narragansett isn't a community if we don't have full-time families living here. When we talk about a bike path, I picture them riding their bikes to school and taking a safe route. And we could also picture tourists taking that same bike path from Narragansett to Wakefield or even up to Jamestown. When we talk about new ideas of getting things done, what I mean is the role of our town government and our town council should be to solve problems, no matter how difficult and polarizing they could be.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you again to the League of Women Voters for having us here tonight. I'd like to just close with the 3 issues that I believe are the biggest issues facing the town, and want to make sure that the town is clear on my view on these. And that would be infrastructure, that would be the town beach, and that would be quality of life. So infrastructure, we just voted on a road bond increase the other night at the town council meeting. Our roads, our town center, our buildings are in desperate need, and we need to pay a lot of attention. That's been loud and clear from the taxpayers. Our beach, well, it's called the Town Beach for one reason, the Town of Narragansett Beach. I was very proud of the beach committee, which I sit on as the rec board, the suggestions we made. I was also very pleased that one of the motions put on by a sitting council member was pulled before it actually got to vote that would have given reciprocal rights for South Kingstown Beach. The town has spoken. The town wants their beach, a quieter beach, and they have it now, and they're very pleased with it. And last, as far as quality of life, I pledge to continue. I will
Time.
never flip-flop, never have, never will.
Okay, thank you.
Patrick, you can't do that.
No, you
Closing
can't
speech.
do that, sorry.
Just kidding.
I want
Worth
to
a
thank.
try, it's worth a try.
I want to thank everybody for coming in, the League of Women Voters. A couple things I did not get to touch on. The beach, I'm on the rec advisory board as well. We worked long and hard on that particular issue as far as eliminating the non-resident passes. We did come up with a friends and family pass, which worked out very, very well. We sold 4,000 fewer passes this year, and 4,000 less people came to the beach to pay daily. So there was 8,000 less tickets or passes that we sold, and yet we made more money on the beach. Clark Road, again, the Rec Advisory Board, we're looking at spray parks. I think a spray park down there would be absolutely fantastic to increase the use of it by the kids, increase the camp.
Time.
I got a lot more to say, too.
Well, your constituents are here in the audience, so please, everybody here, take advantage of the candidates that are here tonight
Man,
to
they're gonna
ask them
run out
more
after
questions.
this crowd.
All right. And I would like to thank all the candidates for participating.
Thank you. Good job, good job. One for the paper. Very good, one for the paper. Nah, you did good.
I would also like to thank the audience here at Narragansett Town Hall and our viewers on public access television. And just to remind you, there will be a Meet the Candidates night on Wednesday, September 24th for the state and House legislator. October 24th, sorry, for the state and House legislators representing Narragansett and South Kingstown. It will also be held here at Narragansett Town Hall and begin at 6:30 p.m. This forum will be rebroadcast on Cox Channel 17 and Verizon Channel 28 frequently between now and Election Day. There is a rebroadcast schedule on the table at the back of the room and at the League of Women Voters website at lwvrisc.org. And anyone who's in the audience here who would fill out a survey that's either on the table or been handed to you, that would be appreciated. And remember to vote on November 6th, and also that friends don't allow friends not to vote. Thank you.